Hey guys, so in my last eating disorder recovery video, someone commented asking about how I recovered from my OCD, and I thought I'd make a video because I can help some more people, and it was just too much to write back in a comment. So if you watch my videos, you'll know that my OCD was a large part of my life. For me, it was harder to recover from than the eating disorder. It took a lot more mental strength, a lot more persistence, and it felt hella impossible a lot of the time. So to give you an idea of how far you can come, let me tell you how bad it got for me. So it started with a fear of being touched, which was to do with a lot of things, but mostly I was scared that fat could somehow be transferred to my body. And I knew logically that that's impossible, but I still believed it in that OCD part of my mind. It got to the point where if I did anything, such as walk through a doorway, switched on a light switch, stood up, swallowed, took a step forward, anything. If I thought about something bad, in the beginning it was just thinking about myself getting fat. It became a lot of things. I could think about someone getting ill, I could think about getting hit by a car, I could think about anything bad that I didn't want to happen. If that happened, I had to redo the action. And this got so bad that there came a point where I couldn't walk. I couldn't really be in public, especially over one summer. We were on holiday in Spain and I spent the whole time sat on a sofa. I refused to unpack my suitcase, I refused to move, I refused to go out, and I didn't tell anyone that I had OCD. I was terrified because I didn't know that this was OCD. I thought OCD was about even numbers and being clean and being neat. So I thought I was going insane, and I was terrified about what people would think of me. So my parents thought I was being rebellious, thought I was just disobeying them for no other reason than to annoy people. No one knew what was going on inside my head, and because of that I didn't get the help. So the very first step is tell someone what's happening, no matter how crazy it feels to say it out loud. Talk to your GP, talk to a doctor, talk to a friend, talk to a family member, anybody, because they can lead you in the right direction. So for me, it started as a big battle of wills. I really had to force myself to not redo things, and it was, in the beginning it was impossible. And what I did, it sounds really silly, is I kind of used the OCD against itself. So I would tell myself things like, if I do this OCD action, then all the bad things that I was thinking about will happen because I tried to stop them. Like, it doesn't really make sense, but I basically switched it against itself. So I would, if I had just walked through a doorway, or like just locked my front door and was about to leave, and suddenly I had the impulse to go back in and do it again, I would tell myself, no, if you do it again, then the bad thing will definitely happen. And that voice became the new OCD, which at the time wasn't that helpful. It was helpful, but it was just one level of OCD to another. But what it did was it forced me out of my comfort zone, and it made me change my actions and realize that nothing bad was happening. And eventually it's really difficult to explain. There is a constant war going on inside your head when you have OCD, like I had OCD. It's a constant voice, and I used to have these mantras that I would say. It would be like things that I liked. It's really stupid, I'm not even going to tell you what it was, but it was like a 5-sentence thing, and I would say it real quick in my head all the time, and that would push out the OCD thoughts if I could focus on that one thought. Because what you'll find is it's nearly impossible to tell your brain to stop thinking something. If I tell you don't think of pandas, you're going to think of pandas. So what you need to do is replace that thought with something else, and for me the mantra worked, and the OCD against itself worked. And that mantra, I still say it in my head all the time. Sometimes I'll be texting and I'll write down what I was thinking of the mantra in my head and be like, whoa, I didn't even realize I was thinking it. Like, that's how much it really ingrained in my brain, but it's a lot less now than it used to be. And those were the first steps that I needed to get out of the very bottom of the pit, to have some breathing room, to kind of lift my head above the water is what it felt like. After that, I went to my GP eventually, and I was prescribed citalopram, something like that, and that really helped. But it was still a mind battle. I also had hypnosis, which helped. But if it wasn't for my constant battles against it, none of these would have cured it. None of the treatments, none of the tablets I was prescribed, nothing. You have to be incredibly strong. You have to force yourself to sit through the anxiety. So the way that my GP described it to me is when you have an OCD impulse, your anxiety is like here. If you don't follow through that impulse, your anxiety will increase to what feels like a maximum. The longer you don't do the impulse, it might go up a bit, but mostly it stays steady. And eventually, you reach a point where it starts to decrease. And this could be hours, this could be minutes, this could be days, depending on you and your OCD. But for everybody, that anxiety will decrease if you don't give in to the action. And when you think about it in a physical sense, it's easy. All you have to do is not do it. But it's freaking hard, guys. And I'm not going to lie to you, it's going to be one of the hardest things you'll have to do if you've got to recover from OCD. But the results are so worth it. I remember sitting in my room and thinking that my life wasn't worth living because I couldn't even get dressed in the morning. I had to be up like 3 hours before school so that I had time to get dressed because I would have to redo every button on my shirt so many times. And it was exhausting. I had to shower with really strong stuff that hurt my skin every day. And if I got out the shower and I accidentally, like, my toe touched like my trousers that had been at school, I'd have to get back in and do the whole thing all over again. That's not living. That's the most draining thing you can put yourself through. And I used to just cling to the hope that one day I would be better. And you have to do that. You cannot say to yourself, well, this is it. This is going to be me for the rest of my life. You have to talk to yourself every morning and say, today might not be great, but I need to hang on and keep trying because I might get better someday. There could be a day when I don't have this and I could be living my life, and I'm going to cling on for that and I will make it happen. And if you don't give up and you push yourself through it, you will make it out the other side. You will. Like, there's no maybe about it. It's very difficult to explain. What I found was keeping busy helped, because if I was doing something that I was totally engrossed in, there was no room for the thoughts. So avoid days where you do nothing. If you're at school, really try to pay attention, and I know that's difficult because OCD was part of the reason that I couldn't complete university, because I couldn't write an essay. I couldn't, and that was after a lot of recovery. It was still bad enough that I couldn't focus in class, but you really need to immerse yourself. And if it's, maybe you need to find something you enjoy, like if I'm doing an acting class, I can focus entirely and not have a single OCD thought the entire way through. But if I'm in a science class, I can't do that. There's no way. So really it's a lot of self-discovery, figuring out what works for you, and an awful lot of willpower, help from people around you, and if you need it, prescribed medications, because they can just take the edge off and make the battle easier. They don't take the battle away, but they make it more doable. So if you have any questions, please comment or message me. I don't really understand YouTube's messaging system. I kind of feel like it may have gone away. So if someone could explain that to me, that would be great. But yeah, comment, and I'll always reply with an answer. Thanks, guys. I wish all of you the best.